go out and make the case and say that this tour is about helping the middle class, when in fact the middle class has seen the rich get richer over the last 4 years.
The president is concerned about the studies like the ones that you cited there, that as we've gone through the recovery, we need to make sure that those benefits are flowing to the middle class. If they don't, if those benefits flow just to the top 1%, what we're going to do is we're going to get back into that boom and bust cycle that actually led to the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression in the first place.
And if you want to help the middle class, the best thing you can do is limit the federal government's profile, not expand it.
I find it astonishing that he goes around making speeches in which he deplores the state of the economy, the growing income inequality, the chronic unemployment, stagnant middle class income, and it's as if he's been a bystander, as if he's been out of the country for the last 5 years. It's his economy. He's the president. He's talking as if this is the Bush economy, or I don't know, the Eisenhower economy, and he just arrived in a boat and he discovers how bad the economy is. This is a result of the policies he instituted. He gave us the biggest stimulus in the history of the Milky Way, and he said it would jumpstart the economy. The result has been the slowest recovery, the worst recovery since World War II. And that is the root of all of the problems he's talking about, the income inequality. The median income of the middle class of Americans has declined by 5% in his one term. So who's responsible for that? They were his policies. He talks about this in the abstract, and actually he gets away with it in a way that I find absolutely astonishing. It's magical. This is his economy, and he's pretending that he's just stumbled upon it. And the policies he proposes are exactly the ones he proposed and implemented in the first term.
Congress needs to do its work. It has to stop looking for what's the last possible moment. It would be terrible for the U.S. economy. It would be terrible for the world economy. It's irresponsible. And I think Congress learned that lesson in 2011.
Is any thought being given inside the White House to calling Congress back into session? If this is as desperate a situation as Jack Lew suggested, why is Washington basically going away for the summer?
The prospect of a government shutdown or more drama around the debt ceiling would be bad for the economy. There's no doubt about that. And I think, again, that is a view that is shared by leaders in Congress in both parties. So there is ample time for us, based on that general agreement, there is ample time for us to make sure that that doesn't happen.
What do you say to those Republicans who say this is the only way we can get the administration to deal on anything is by using these lever points? It's not the way they want to run the government. It is the only way that they can get them to move. Except that they can't. If they could, I would support this. It's been shown in the showdowns over the budget and over the debt ceiling that in the end our side will cave, because Obama, the broadcasting, as we saw in all those clips, they are not going to accede, particularly on abolishing Obamacare. The government will shut down, and we know how that ends. It ended with Newt. It ended that way 2 years ago. You can't win. If you could, I'd support it. Choose a tactic that has a chance of winning. Sure. Maybe it's not abolishing or defunding Obamacare, but Speaker Boehner has said a debt ceiling increase has to come with some more cuts. The White House is saying they're not negotiating on any of that.
As long as the cuts are consensual, reasonable, and ones that a vast majority of Americans will support. Otherwise, if it looks like a drastic cut and the administration stands pat, the Republicans will be accused of overreaching and shutting the government down. And just one word, if everybody is leaving town, why are we stuck here?
I know the negotiations are going to be tough, but I also know that the consequences of not trying could be worse. We'll be very fortunate to have on our team, on a day-to-day basis, working with the parties, wherever they are negotiating, a seasoned American diplomat, Ambassador Martin Indyk.
Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Mahmoud Abbas have made the tough decisions required to come back to the negotiating table.
Charles, your thoughts?
The fundamental issue is whether the Palestinians will sign a final agreement. They will sign interim agreements, and they have dozens of them, but a final agreement that accepts a Jewish state. And they have never done that. They were offered that in 2000, 2001, and 2008, extremely generous terms, and every time they walked away. And I think that remains the problem. The Israelis Interestingly, Netanyahu and his government are very interested in the final agreement. They have a sense that history is running away from them. The conditions, the terms they would achieve today, I believe, are probably stronger than they would in the future. But the Palestinians, every day that passes, they get support from the EU and from others. They stand the pat and everybody rewards them. They're going to have a release of prisoners here. I think that's the stumbling block, and I don't think there's any indication that the Palestinians have shifted in their objectives, which is ultimately all of the land of Palestine.
If Hamas gets truly gelded by this process, you could see some movement somewhere, but I just don't see John Kerry being the shepherd to do it.
Except that Hamas had negotiations with Iran over the weekend, exactly in response to the loss of the patron in Cairo. And Hamas represents Gaza. It opposes Abbas. And remember, Abbas, speaking of legitimacy, is in the 9th year of a 4-year term. So he doesn't have a lot of legitimacy. Elections were supposed to happen 5 years ago, around the time Obama was elected. It hasn't happened. He speaks on behalf really of no one. So this is, look, it's a dance. We've done it before. That they're speaking is okay, but anybody who holds out hope that this is going to be the final status, as Kerry announced in these opening of the talks, I think is living on the moon.
This has been a Sunfish production.